saw the deer, just give me the whole story. I'm going to record you here.
Oh, you want me to tell you the whole story?
The whole
again?
story. Just give me a real synopsis. Where you first saw him.
Okay.
How you got to be on this deer.
Let me get my head on straight here, Jim. That was November the 7th, Sunday. Sunday evening, driving down the southwest corner of the property, and as I turned to go park my truck to get out for the night and do my evening hunt, I looked off it about 70 yards off the side of the road there, and I seen antlers in the brush, and I eased forward just a little bit, and sure enough, I seen some long tines and a really good buck. Well, I immediately just took off, didn't spook the deer. Went and got in my tree that night, hoped that this deer would come through, and never did, never seen him. Went to the motel, thought about coming home because it's 70 degrees, hot, wind was blowing 30 miles an hour, just tough hunting conditions. The deer weren't moving very good. But I said, you know, you got a lot of time invested up here, you need to take one more day and let's just hang with it. The deer are going to do their rutting thing, whether it's hot or not. So, had a stand probably 400 yards from where I saw this deer, went and climbed in it, took my sandwiches, going to stay all day, and basically sat for 5 hours till 11 o'clock. Saw one buck that morning, one buck about 100 yards off in the brush. Couldn't really tell if it was a spike or a 200-inch deer, just seen that it was a buck. So after sitting 5 hours, I got down, stripped all my heavy clothes off, and I took off walking, took off scouting. Anyway, I went down to the southwest corner of the property, and I noticed a creek crossing there. The deer had been crossing the creek in a tree that I'd marked 2 weeks ago when I was up there, and I wanted to hang a stand in some point in time. And I eased down the creek a little further, went about 50 yards, and I realized that I was a lot closer to the corner of the property where I saw this deer the day before. Right. 50 yards further on into the deal, a doe jumps up out of the cedar thicket, and this appeared to be this buck right here was right on her tail and took off running with her. Well, I immediately headed back up the creek. I had all my stands out, nothing in the truck, so I headed back up the creek to the stand I'd hunted in that morning, grabbed my stand, my spikes out of my tree, my bow and all my gear, headed back down to the tree that I found 2 weeks earlier, hung the stand, got up in the stand, it's Kansas, there's not a straight tree in Kansas, we all know that. Could get about 13 feet tall, and I didn't really like the tree, just had negative thoughts about it, and I said, man, just go with your first instinct, go with your gut, we're going to set up right here, and we're going to stay till dark. So that's what we did. I had to get down, I had to trim a couple of hedge limbs, and if you've ever hunted in Kansas, you know the hedge sticks to everything. I made a ton of noise cutting those limbs out, getting those drug out of the way. Climbed up in my tree stand, looked at my watch, it was 1 o'clock. Wringing wet with sweat, I started putting my camo back on, and I realized that I was so low, I wanted to get some paint on my face to kind of blend in a little bit better. Fortunately, I was in a triple trunk tree, which is always good. It gives you a little break up instead of being on a telephone pole. But started painting my face, got my face all painted up, folded my compact up, put it back in my satchel there, and was going to zip it up. And the wind was blowing real hard, probably 20 miles an hour, but I heard, and I said, man, I sound like a buck running. I kind of throwed my hand to the wind like this right here, and boy, I heard it 3 more times. Immediately stood up, grabbed my bow, and as soon as I looked the way the grunts had come from, I saw the deer come out of the cedars at about 40 yards and just made a little half circle and went back in. And I could tell it was a nice deer. I remember seeing this flyer here on the left-hand side. So I immediately grabbed my grunt tube. I grunted at him 3 times, put the grunt tube down, grabbed my rangefinder. I hadn't even ranged anything yet. And ranged the spot over at the edge of the cedars. 28 yards was as far as I could shoot. Got my rangefinder put back up and immediately looked. And here come the deer quartering from left from behind me. Passes my tree at 20 yards. When he got in behind some cedars, I drew my bow back, and he literally walked right in the spot that I'd ranged, and I gave him a little deer map, stopped him, double lunged him. He run through the cedars like a D5 dozer and piled up 40 yards away. I looked at my watch when this was all said and done, 107. Been in the tree stand 7 minutes.
And you grossed him out at what score?
217 and 6/8.
217, and the biggest deer prior to this one, Steve, was
176.
176, and you killed it last year
on the same farm.
So
yes,
you've had a couple years of
some really
tremendous
good luck.
success, man.
Yes, sir.
That's cool.